Before you close your eyes tonight, let me take you on a quiet journey, not through fairy tales, but through stories of wisdom, kindness, and the little lessons that make life truly meaningful. These 12 tales may be simple, but their messages can stay with us long after the lights go out. So get comfortable, and let the stories begin. Story 1. I must have been 8 or 9 years old when it happened, but the memory has never left me. It was a regular weekday evening. My mom had just come home after a long, exhausting day at work. Despite how tired she must have been, she still made dinner for my dad and me, just like she always did. That night, she placed a plate of toast on the table, burnt toast. And I don't mean slightly overcooked. I mean black as coal. I sat there in silence, staring at those charred slices, waiting to see if anyone would say something. I expected my dad to frown, maybe even complain. But he didn't. He picked up a piece, spread some butter on it like nothing was wrong, and started eating. Then he turned to me and asked about my day, about school, my homework, just like any other night. I don't remember what I said. But I'll never forget what I heard next. My mom, clearly embarrassed, apologized for burning the toast. And my dad, with a gentle smile, said, "Honey, I love burnt toast." Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, I tiptoed into my parents' room and asked him quietly, "Dad, do you really like burnt toast?" He wrapped his arm around my shoulders and said, "Your mom had a long day and she was tired. A little burnt toast never hurt anyone. But do you know what really hurts people? Harsh words. Criticism. Lack of understanding." Then he paused and looked at me with kind eyes. Life is full of imperfect things and imperfect people. I'm not perfect either. I forget birthdays, anniversaries, I mess up a lot. But over the years, I've learned something important. Learning to accept each other's flaws, and choosing to see the good in them, is the foundation of every strong, healthy relationship. He added, "Life's too short to wake up with regrets or to dwell on small mistakes. Love the people who treat you well, and show grace to those who are still learning how." That night, I learned something I carry with me to this day. Compassion isn't about grand gestures. Sometimes, it's as simple as eating burnt toast without a single complaint. In a world that often demands perfection, let's not forget the beauty of understanding and the power of choosing kindness, even when the toast is burnt. Story 2. Once upon a time, in a quiet rice barn tucked away in the countryside, there were 2 special grains of rice. They were strong, full, and carefully chosen by the farmer to become seeds for the next season. They weren't like all the others, they were the best of the harvest, saved for something greater. One morning, the farmer came to take them to the field. As he reached for them, the first grain whispered to itself, "Why should I let myself be buried in the soil? That's painful, destructive. I could lose everything I am. No, I'll stay safe. I'll keep all my nutrients sealed tightly within this shell. I'll find a quiet corner and just wait." So, it rolled away into a dark spot in the barn, hidden from the world. The second grain, on the other hand, was filled with hope. "Yes. This is it," it thought. "A chance to become something more. Let the soil take me, I'm ready for a new life to begin." And so, it went with the farmer to the field, eager and unafraid. Time passed. In the quiet corner of the barn, the first grain began to wither. There was no sunlight, no rain. Nothing reached it. Though it had kept all its nutrients, they were useless in isolation. Slowly, it dried up and died, never becoming more than what it was. Meanwhile, the second grain lay buried in the earth. It broke open. It dissolved. But from that sacrifice, a vibrant stalk of golden rice grew tall and strong. In time, it bore new grains, new life, new beginnings, offering nourishment to the world around it. So, don't lock yourself away in fear of being broken. Wholeness means little if it leads to emptiness. Sometimes, we have to let go of our comfort and face uncertainty. Sometimes, we must allow ourselves to be broken in order to grow. That's the quiet courage of becoming. Be like the second grain, willing to fall, to rise, and to give back. Because in this vast, open field of life, each of us has a choice, to stay safe and small, or to step out, be transformed, and make something beautiful. Story 3. One sunny afternoon, a scholar and a boatman found themselves traveling together on a small wooden boat drifting down a wide, calm river. To pass the time, the scholar, proud of his education and knowledge, suggested a game of riddles. "Let's make this interesting," he said with a confident smile. "If I can't answer your riddle, I'll give you 10 coins. But if you can't answer mine, you only need to give me 5. That's fair, right? A little advantage for you." The boatman, simple and humble, nodded. "All right," he said, "you go first." But the scholar insisted, "No, you start. Let's see what you've got." The boatman thought for a moment, then asked, "What weighs 1,000 pounds in the river, but only 10 pounds on land?" The scholar chuckled at first, but then he began to think. And think. And think. Minutes passed. He furrowed his brow, scratched his head, and tried every possible answer he could think of, but nothing seemed right. Finally, frustrated, he sighed and handed the boatman 10 coins. "Fine," he said. "I give up. What's the answer?" The boatman smiled and said, "I don't know either." Then he handed the scholar 5 coins back and added with a grin, "But thanks, I just made 5 coins today." The scholar was stunned. Speechless. The lesson? Too often, we think of intelligence as something to show off. We speak in big words, carry ourselves above others, and look down on those with less education, thinking wisdom only comes from books and degrees. But real wisdom doesn't always speak loudly. Sometimes, it just smiles, listens, and lets the river carry the truth. The scholar believed he was the smartest man in the boat, but it was the boatman who walked away wiser and richer. So in life, don't fear the clever ones, be mindful of those who seem ordinary. And never underestimate someone just because they don't speak like a scholar. True strength lies not in proving how smart we are, but in staying humble enough to keep learning. Story 4. One morning, a young woman walked past an elderly man selling eggs by the roadside. "How much for 1 egg?" she asked. $1 for 2, he replied, softly. She paused and then bargained, "How about 4 eggs for $1? Otherwise, I won't buy." The old man smiled and agreed. "Of course, miss. I haven't sold anything yet today, maybe this is a lucky start." She paid, took the eggs, and walked away feeling proud, thinking she'd struck a good deal. Later that evening, she met friends at a fancy restaurant. They laughed, ate lavishly, and ordered whatever they pleased. When the bill came, it was $420. Without blinking, she handed over $500 and told the waiter to keep the change. She felt generous. But earlier that day, she'd bargained with a man who likely needed that dollar far more than she did. Many of us show kindness to those who already have everything, and forget the dignity of those who have very little. True generosity isn't measured by how much we spend, but by how we treat people, especially those who ask for less than they deserve. Story 5. There's a story about Mahatma Gandhi that's always stayed with me. He was once on a train, speeding down the tracks, when suddenly, one of his brand new shoes slipped off and fell out the open door. People around him gasped. "What a loss," it was a perfectly good shoe. But then, something unexpected happened. Without hesitation, Gandhi took off the other shoe and tossed it out the door as well. Everyone looked at him in shock. Why throw away the second shoe too? Gandhi smiled gently and said, "That shoe no longer serves me, but perhaps, if someone finds both, they'll have a complete pair. And maybe, just maybe, it will fit them perfectly." The lesson? When something is truly gone, whether it's a possession, a moment, or a relationship, it's often kinder to let it go fully. Clinging to the second shoe only reminds us of what we've lost. Letting go might just help someone else begin again. Story 6. There was once a young monk who longed to travel far away to deepen his practice and learning. One day, he approached his teacher to share the news. "Master," he said, "I plan to leave next week." His teacher nodded. "It's a long journey. Have you made preparations?" "Yes," the monk replied. "I've asked someone to weave me a few pairs of straw sandals. Once I have them, I'll set off." The teacher was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "In that case, let me speak to our devotees. I'll ask if anyone would be willing to offer you some sandals for the road." The monk didn't think much of it, until, by the end of the day, dozens of people had come by, each bringing their own offering. Soon, one corner of the meditation hall was filled with stacks of handmade sandals. The next morning, someone came by with an umbrella. "Why the umbrella?" the monk asked, surprised. The devotee replied, "The master said you'll be traveling far, there might be storms along the way. An umbrella might be useful." That evening, more umbrellas arrived. And more. By nightfall, the meditation hall held nearly 50 umbrellas, piled beside the mountain of sandals. When the evening class ended, the teacher came to visit his student. Looking at the towering stack of shoes and umbrellas, he asked gently, "Do you have enough now?" The monk gave a helpless smile. "More than enough, master. I can't possibly carry all of this." The old teacher sat beside him and said softly, "The road may bring sun or rain. Who knows how far you'll walk, or how many storms you'll endure? What if your sandals tear? What if your umbrella is lost?" He paused, then added, "And surely, you'll have to cross rivers. Perhaps we should ask the devotees to bring you a boat next." It was in that moment that the young monk finally understood. He dropped to his knees, bowed deeply, and said, "Master, I will depart now. And I will bring nothing but myself." In life, the most important part of any journey isn't the sandals, the umbrella, or any of the things we try to pack, just in case. What matters most is the heart we bring with us, and the courage to begin. No amount of preparation can replace clear purpose and determination. If your heart is steady and your intention is true, the path will open beneath your feet. You don't need to carry everything, just take the first step. Even one step forward is already a harvest. So bring your heart. The rest will come. Story 7. One day, a wealthy father took his young son on a trip to the countryside. He wanted to show the boy how poor some people could be. They spent the day visiting a humble farming family, no modern comforts, no fancy things. Just a simple life. On the way home, the father asked, "So, what did you think of the trip?" "It was amazing, Dad," the boy said, his eyes still full of wonder. "Did you see how poor people can be?" "Yes," the boy nodded. "I did. Tell me, what did you learn from this experience?" The son looked up and said softly, "Well, we have one dog. They have 4. We have a pool. They have rivers. We use lights at night. They have the stars. We have walls around our home to protect us. They have friends. We watch TV. They spend time with their family. Then, after a pause, he added, "Thanks, Dad, for showing me how poor we really are." The father was speechless. You see, being rich isn't about what's in your wallet. It's about what's in your heart. Love. Connection. Simplicity. Those are the true treasures of life. Story 8. There was once a humble farmer who sold butter to a local baker. Week after week, the baker would buy the same amount of butter from him, until one day, curiosity got the best of him. He decided to weigh the butter, just to be sure he was getting exactly what he paid for. To his surprise, the scale showed less than he expected. Upset, the baker took the farmer to court. In front of the judge, the farmer was asked to explain how he measured the butter. The farmer replied, "Your Honor, I'm just a simple man. I don't have any fancy tools. I only have an old-fashioned scale." The judge asked again, "Then how do you weigh the butter?" The farmer gently smiled and said, "Well, Your Honor, long ago, the baker started buying butter from me, and I started buying bread from him. Every time he brought me a loaf of bread, I'd place it on one side of the scale and give him the same weight in butter on the other." He paused, then added, "So if anyone is getting shorted, it isn't me. The truth is, what you give to others is often what comes back to you." Life has a quiet way of keeping things in balance. Story 9. Long ago, in ancient times, a wise king placed a large boulder in the middle of a road. Then he hid nearby, curious to see who would stop and do something about it. As the day went on, many wealthy merchants and royal officials passed by. Instead of moving the boulder, they simply walked around it. Some even grumbled about the king not keeping the roads clear. But not one of them made the effort to move the rock. Then came a poor farmer, carrying a heavy load of vegetables. When he reached the boulder, he set down his burden and began pushing with all his strength. It took time, sweat, and persistence, but at last, he moved the stone off the road. As he turned to pick up his vegetables, he noticed a small pouch where the boulder had been. Inside was a bag of gold coins and a note from the king. "This is a reward for the one who cared enough to clear the path for others." This story reminds us that challenges aren't just problems, they're chances to grow, to help others, and to be rewarded in unexpected ways. While some complain, others take action, and it's those who act that find the hidden treasures in life. Story 10. One Christmas long ago, a little girl used up an entire roll of beautiful gold wrapping paper to decorate a box. Her father, already struggling to make ends meet, scolded her harshly. "Why would you waste something so expensive?" he said, upset that she'd used it all on something that seemed so pointless. But on Christmas morning, the little girl brought the gold-wrapped box to her father and said, "This is for you, Daddy." He was touched, until he opened it and found the box empty. His frustration returned. "Don't you know," he said sharply, "when you give someone a gift, there should be something inside." Tears welled up in the child's eyes. "But Daddy," she whispered, "the box isn't empty. I blew kisses into it, all for you." Her father was stunned. Overwhelmed by guilt and love, he gently pulled her into his arms and begged for her forgiveness. Not long after, a tragic accident took the little girl's life. The grieving father kept the gold box beside his bed for years. And whenever he felt lost or alone, he would open the box, take out an invisible kiss, and feel once again the warmth of his daughter's love. The meaning of the story is: true love is invisible but deeply felt. It's not about what we give, but the love we put into giving. Story 11. Two friends were walking through the desert. At some point during the journey, they got into an argument, and one friend slapped the other across the face. The one who got slapped was hurt, but without saying a word, he bent down and wrote in the sand. Today, my best friend slapped me in the face. They kept walking until they found an oasis, where they decided to bathe. But suddenly, the one who had been slapped got stuck in the mud and began to drown. His friend jumped in and saved him. After recovering, he found a rock and carved into it. Today, my best friend saved my life. The friend who had slapped and then saved him asked, "Why did you write the first thing in the sand, but this one on a rock?" He smiled and said, "When someone hurts us, we should write it in the sand where the winds of forgiveness can erase it. But when someone does something kind, we must engrave it in stone, where no wind can ever erase it." The story tells us that forgiveness and gratitude are what give life its deepest meaning. Let kindness stay in your heart, and let hurt be carried away by the wind. Story 12. During the Meiji era in Japan, there lived a Zen master named Nanin. One day, a university professor, well versed in philosophy and religion, came to visit him, hoping to learn about Zen. Nanin welcomed him warmly and invited him to sit. Without saying much, the Zen master began to pour tea. He poured and poured until the cup was full, but he didn't stop. Tea began to spill over the sides and onto the table. The professor watched, puzzled, until he could no longer hold back. "It's full. No more will go in," he exclaimed. Nanin calmly replied, "Just like this cup, you are full of your own ideas, opinions, and assumptions. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" The lesson? To truly learn anything, we must first let go of what we think we know. A mind open and empty is ready to receive wisdom. As these gentle stories fade into silence, may their quiet wisdom settle in your heart. Let them remind you that even the smallest moments can hold great meaning. If these tales brought you peace tonight, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this warmth with someone you love. Now close your eyes, breathe deeply, and drift off into a restful sleep. Good night.